This lesson is all about comparison operators, where we're going to look at Boolean values, truthy values, falsy values, and a whole bunch of really neat things. So we did see earlier that we did use a comparison operator where we looked at the evaluation of content and seeing whether it's true or false when we were looking at Booleans. So this is what a comparison operator does, is it allows us to ask a question and apply some logic. So we can even do things like equal to, which we've seen. We can see greater than, less than, and these all return Boolean values. So we're asking ourselves a question, is this comparable to that? And if it is, then we get a true value, and if not, then we get false. So they can only be one or the other, and those are where the Booleans really shine. And also notice that when we do equal to, that we have two equal signs, sometimes three equal signs if we're also including the data type. And this is important to note, as when we're doing one equal sign, that's an assignment value. So that's an assignment operator, and that's assigning a value. So to is to do the comparison. So you can also use and combine and compare the two. So opening that up in the Mozilla Developer Network, so we've got all the different operators there, and the assignment operators there, compound assignment operators that we've already seen, and then this is where we're looking at the comparison operators. So there we've got the equal sign returns 2 if both are equal, and they've got some examples here. So if 3 is equal to var1, and if var1 is actually 3 as well, then it's going to come back true. Otherwise, it's false. We also have a not equal to, which is interesting because all you do is place the exclamation mark plus the equal sign. So that also is looking for a true value. And if it's true, then it's going to run the first block of code within the condition. So that is something that if we've got 3 not equal to 4, and what's the answer to that? That's true. There's the strict equal. So this is also considering the data type. So meaning that if var is equal to the text, the string 3, and we've got a number 3, then on the two equal signs, they are going to be equal. It's going to come back true. But on the 3 equal signs, it's not going to come back true. It's going to be false. And you can try all of this stuff out in the console. So we could look at things like 3 equals 3, and of course that comes back true. And if we do 3 equals, and this is a string value, that also comes back true. And now if we try it with the third equal sign, we see it comes back false. 3 is not equal to, and let's do 4. So that comes back true. And you can have some fun with this, play around with it, try out all the different values. So we see that that also returns back true. And then within the statement, then if we do return back true, then that's when we run the function. You can also try different values. So you can say 3 is greater than 6, which is false. We know that. 6 is greater than 3, and that comes back true. 70 is greater than or equal to 70, and that comes back true. So we know that 70 is not greater than true, so it comes back false. So there's a number of different combinations you can do, and it really does take a little bit of time to get more familiar with these. This is where we've got the less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and they've got examples of how they work. If we're just doing the less than or greater than, then we only have the one symbol there. We can also include the not, so not within strict, as well as not within equal. So there's quite a few options, and we can do a whole bunch of different types of comparisons. So what's being returned back is either a truthy or a falsy. And we also saw this earlier when we were doing comparison between what Boolean values when we were adding them together. So we saw that Booleans are either true or false, and they can also be seen as a 1 or a 0, and also values that are undefined. So if we have an undefined or a null or a 0 or a NaN being returned back for the variable, then that's going to come back as false. And otherwise, if we do have them and they are equal values, then they are true. So if it has a value, it's true. If it's set to true, it's true. And if it's got a value of 1, then that's true. So those are the truthies, and the other ones were the falsies. So what we need to do in this challenge is check to see if a number exists, and also check if it is greater than 50, show a message in the console. So first we're going to check to see if it exists. for a variable. So get a variable, assign a value to it, and do a condition, checking to see if it's there. And if it is, output a message. And if there's no value, then we can do number doesn't exist. So use some of the falsies in order to indicate that it's not there. So null, 0, false, etc. And then also check to see if the value is greater than 50. And if it is, then output a message into the console. So you could pause the video, and this is the solution to the challenge. So go ahead and pause the video and write up the solution within your editor. And I'll walk you through it coming up. Let's begin. So first of all, we need to have a number that we're going to be using. So we can use 5 as our number that we're checking. And we're going to check to see if num exists. And if it does, then we're going to run this block of code. And this is where we've got our console message. So if check num exists, and we can write check num is true. So whatever it's returning back as true, then we get this message. And next, we want to also check to see if check num is greater than 50 and output a message if it is greater than 50. And then we'll update the value of check num. And remember, even if it's 50, we're checking to see, so 50 is not greater than 50, so that's still going to be false. So keep that in mind as well. And then just to clarify what number we are working with, we'll output in the console. So we see that check num is true and 5, and that's the number, so we're not seeing the bigger than 50. Let's try some of the other falsies. So set it to 0, and we see that check num is not true, so it's not there, it's not true. And you can also add in an exclamation mark, so that will negate that. So instead of being false, that will toggle it to be true. So that's one little quick trick that you can do as well. So all of the ones that are null and undefined, it's always going to come back and we're not seeing this message being output. So it's only until we have a value that's held in here. So even if we have a value of 500, you're going to see that that value is being output. And here's again that type conversion where JavaScript is taking this string and it's saying, is that string larger than 50? And it's checking to see, and it's trying to convert that string. So the first thing it tries to do when it sees a string, it tries to convert it in a number. And if it works, then it's going to output it. But if you have something like test, then of course you can't check to see if test is larger than 50. So that's not going to come back. And that's going to come back as a not a number. And remember, not a numbers are falsies. So that's why we're not seeing the output of that statement. And then lastly, for some bonus marks, check to see if the value of, let's turn it back to 5. So it's a string value of 5. So we're going to check if check num is equal to 5. And so what do you think is going to happen here? Do you think it's going to output that? And we'll just put yes there. So do you think yes is going to be output in the console or not? And remember that the 3 equal signs are different than the 2 equal signs because that's also looking for the data type. So when we have 2 equal signs, we see yes. When we have 3 equal signs, we don't see yes because that's not going to be a true statement. So try this out, have some fun with it, experiment, and coming up next, more advanced with our conditions.